Earthquakes suck, which is why I was called in to assist the town of Mistria with rebuilding as quickly as Bob the Builder on steroids. To do that, I'll need to build up a farming industry, explore the depths of a nearby mine, gather resources, and try my best to get to bed on time, something that I'm seemingly terrible at in-game and in real life. So one stormy evening, Ireland and Adeline, two of the town's leaders, came up with the brilliant idea to offer land to people who would help rebuild the town of Mistria. And anything free sounds good to me, so I decided to rock up and freeload as much as I could. After a brief interlude, and the creation of one snazzy Buster and farm, named Buster's Beauty, I was soon joined by a jumping man named Balor. Balor soon saw me to town after I admitted my love for freeloading. Free land in a house? I'm a freeloader, I'll go with this one. I was introduced to my new DIY project, aka my new farm, and was tasked with getting to work ASAP. In the morning, Celine met with me and hooked me up with a hoe, the gardening type, and some tulip seeds to get my farm moving. I also met with Fabio, or Hayden, my next door neighbour, who is the town's animal farmer. He also hooked me up with a watering can and some more seeds, and I was underway. I began hoeing the ground and planting the seeds that I was given. I also went to meet with Adeline after watering a sign. I made myself comfortable at Celine's house for a moment along the way, and attempted to read her diary and sleep in her bed. You know, being a good neighbour and all. I was informed by Adeline that I needed to improve the town's rank, and to help fulfill the local town board requests in order to do this. This consisted of running errands and collecting things for other townfolk. Meeting all the townsfolk was the first task that I was given. I first went to the potion shop, noticing that this store sold speed pots and stamina pots, something that I was keen to get my hands on quickly, before going to the bathhouse. I then went to the town's manor and explored all the halls. No one was home, so I continued exploring the town trying to speak with everyone. Everyone was kind enough, well, all except March, the moody blacksmith. I spoke to Luck about bugs along with some other kids. The inn was neat, there I met the owners, and it was, as I would later find out, a location that I could get a free meal from, something always welcome in my books. The general store was the location where seeds were sold, and this is a spot that I would be visiting often. I also noticed that the general store sold a juicy bag upgrade for more space, and some fruit trees that I was going to get my hands on later. I then went to the museum where I could donate findings, bugs, crops, and all sorts of things found in Mistria. Running out of time, I was keen to visit everyone before the sun went down, so I quickly dashed around to visit the final members. After trying to talk to an animal like a numpty, I realized that I had to head to the complete other side of the map to speak with the final person. I planted some potato seeds along the way, and finally spoke to Landon, the final person on my list. Okay, hi there, Landon. Then I went back to Adeline to receive my reward for completing this task. She gave me some more potato seeds, which, being a meat and potato kind of guy, was all good to me. I completed my first day, received 20 renown, upgraded the town rank, and received some money for a reward. Aylan gave me an axe after I cut down a tree for him, giving me access to a strange dragon statue on my farm. I checked the board for quests, and to get a pickaxe, I needed to go and talk to Ulrich. After running around town trying to find Ulrich, collecting some wild forage along the way, I finally found him and received the pickaxe that I was after. I bought some more turnip seeds with the money that I received and planted them. I watered the crops, began clearing some of the land, collected some of the stone and timber, and then sold some of the wild forage that I'd got. I soon ran out of stamina, so I decided to go and look for some of the goods that I need for tasks that I had for the other townsfolk. I made my way to the beach and collected some shells before running out of bag space, something that I would struggle with the entire game being the hoarder that I am. I found cattails, which I found out later were completely useless for the most part. I ate some of the forage that I collected more flowers and forage, and then gave my first flower to Celine, gaining some more brownie points with my epic charisma skills. I also began stacking wood and stone, rather than selling it, which turned out to be a very good idea because I needed a lot of these. That night, I had a strange dream involving the dragon statue that I uncovered, who promised to give me perks and skills if I helped him regain his strength. This basically involved collecting essence from activities that I would perform each day. These essences could then be traded to unlock skills. I leveled up the town rank, received a hoodie as a reward, and watered my crops first thing in the morning. I spoke to the dragon who wanted me to collect essence, unlocked my hoodie, bought more turnips, and explored more of Mistria. I found some berries that I needed for a quest, and instantly ran out of bag space again. I'm full again. I located the archaeological dig site, and then went to turn in my berry quest. On the way, I stopped in at the museum, and spoke with Errol, who asked me to bring him things from all around town to display at the museum. I then discovered that I could actually use my sword to mow down the grass at no cost of my stamina, and soon became a human lawnmower. I collected some grass seed and hay, which I would need later for animals that I was going to purchase, and continued my human lawn mowing expedition. I sold the hay, which I really regretted later, as hay became difficult to obtain at times for my animals. I eventually went to bed, received more town renown, rewards, and was up the next day, my first day of rain. Rain in this game is awesome, by the way, especially when you have a lot of crops to water, as it's an insta-water for the day. I also discovered that I could jump, and soon began jumping my way around town like a kangaroo with one too many monster cans on the menu. I bought some more seeds, and a dodgy-looking shovel, went to the broken bridge which Adeline wanted me to repair, and agreed to help with this project. This mostly consisted of collecting stone and wood, so I decided the best way to do this would be to head to the farm and begin clearing more of the land. I spoke to Luck though and became an official Pokemon trainer, aka bug catcher, and received a bug net from him. Gotta catch them all, like Pokemon. Again though, I ran out of bag space, I planted some more seeds, collected some essence for doing this, and began making a second plot for planting more seeds at some stage. I donated my first bugs to the museum, and realized because my bags were full last time that I was at the museum, I hadn't picked up my reward like a goose. I learnt a new recipe for cooking, and then went to the local carpenter's shop to see if I could build a kitchen. Indeed, I could get one there, but I needed way more money to do this. I was at it again with the human lawn mowing soon after in the rain at night, and completed my day. Once again, I managed to level up the town's rank and received a reward. In the morning, I collected my first crops, the first turnips that I'd planted. I sold them and realized that I'd misjudged baby trees and mushrooms because I'm a numpty. Oh, these are trees, not mushrooms. Okay. I then collected more stone for the bridge repair because I needed a whole lot more, and discovered how to trade in my essence for skills. I wanted to upgrade my farming skills, so I chose the refreshing perk, which would sometimes refund my stamina when watering crops, and prepared pick perk, say that 3 times, which would allow for occasional drops of seed versions of crops when harvesting forageables. I then went to the town board to collect the daily quest, collecting some cheeky berries along the way, finally read my mail and received an invitation to the Friday night traditional gathering where I was promised a free drink. Never one to pass up a freebie, I decided to attend this gathering. I turned in the turnip quest to Adeline, and then dropped the stone and the wood needed for the bridge repair in the quest box before foraging a little. I found some blueberries that I needed for a quest, headed to the inn in the evening, handed in the quest because everyone from the town was present, and received my free drink. I spoke to each of the tables, and discovered 3 primary things going on there. One group enjoyed trying different alcohol, another enjoyed playing cards, where Ulrich's luck just never seemed to run out, and finally, there was a weekly D&D game going on with Ayland as the dungeon master. But before heading home, I bought some more potato seeds and planted them. I collected more turnips, watered my crops, and the stamina boost that I had received from my new skill perk was assisting a lot with my maintaining my stamina levels. I bought some more potato seeds with the money that I'd made, and tried to fulfill some more town requests, which I now figured out actually gave me renown for completing them. I gave Nora some clay and received 50 big ones for my work, and turned these into some more potatoes. Planting and watering these in, I collected more essence for more skills, and then began clearing more of my land with all of the stamina that I had left over. Soon I assisted with rebuilding the busted bridge, and then spoke to Errol and Ayland about trying to reopen the mine. Errol wasn't too keen on this, as there are monsters in the mine apparently, and it was a dangerous place, especially since the earthquake, but Ayland, much too influential for Errol to resist, even if the mine sounded like a creepy hole of death. Ooh. That's creepy. Gave in the end. Errol agreed that if I could level up the town rank, that he would assist with reopening the mine. This sounded exciting to me, so I wanted to get this mine open ASAP. I then sold some extra goods, I had a difficult time completing some tasks, I found a weird chicken statue, which I had no idea what was about, but thought that it looked cool. I then headed home and called it a day. I managed to rank up the town almost 3 levels that night, and woke up to another rainy day. I collected some crops, popped them into the shipping container to sell them, and got the Day Well Spent perk with my essence. This skill basically allowed me to obtain a stamina boost every morning if I went to bed empty of stamina. I collected my rewards for ranking up the town, fulfilled some more quests, and decided to save up for the extra bag space, which I was now super close to being able to purchase. I then went foraging for the day to try and get some more things to sell. I decided to go to sleep a little early that day so that I could get the extra bag space too. I ranked up the town again and then collected my crops to sell before heading to the store to buy the extra bag space. Very nice. Very nice indeed. With the extra funds that I had, I chose to buy some more crops, opting for the more expensive cabbage seeds this time. I also received a letter to speak with Adeline about boosting the town's food reserves. I planted my cabbage seeds and headed to the manor to meet her. I agreed to help them with stockpiling 10 potato crops by growing them for the town. I had a mission to provide a fennel plant to someone, so I went around foraging that day and managed to snag one. I collected a bunch of berries and various other wild crops, along with a lilac that I needed for a quest. I handed these quests in and received some rewards, of which Juniper, the local bathhouse manager, a complete cover for her witchy ways, used me as a guinea pig to try out a new potion that she was working on. The potion didn't really agree with me, but Juniper did give me some free bathhouse tokens for my troubles, which was all I needed to keep my mouth shut. After that ordeal, I went home, stomach aches and all, and continued to work on clearing my farm. I managed to level up the town's rank from wood rank to stone rank that night, which provided me with a potion that gave me extra stamina. Okay, we're ranked up to stone. Very nice. New reward available in the reward chest. Okay, I don't know what that is. I also received a crystal ball from Juniper the next day for my troubles at her bathhouse, which allowed me to predict the next day's weather. I then went to the mine in order to get it up and running. I met Errol and Aylin there, and eventually the mine was cleared for me to explore. There was another dragon statue inside that I could use to obtain mining and combat skills that would assist me in going deeper into the mine. I then went straight down into the mine and began hacking away at every rock in sight. I managed to kill a few mushroom monsters, and found a treasure chest which gave me some copper ore and a cool looking miner's hat that I wore for most of the rest of the game. I soon ran out of bag space again after finding various items, and made my way down to level 5, which, in the mine, every 5 levels you're allowed to begin from that depth the next time that you go into the mine. I decided to head home and sell a bunch of things from the mine to make some extra cash, and quickly donate some things to the museum. I then fulfilled a quest after watering crops, and received the ability to make a crafting table. I made some wooden fences, and collect some bugs for the museum. Clearing my farm became a bit of a priority at this stage because I needed the timber, and I also wanted to make room for other future projects. I collected some more seeds, fulfilled some more quests, and then ran out of stamina early in the day, so I ate some cheeky berries and began planting the potatoes that I'd bought. Oh, I don't have enough. You know what, I have some berries in here, I can eat some of these. I also completed quests for the ever-lovely March, which Adeline assisted in navigating. He soon gave me a very reluctant blacksmithing lesson. My greedy hoarding of foraging got the better of me that day, and so I ended up being out too late and I passed out. No, I'm not going to make it. It's too late. Oh no. The penalty of which was waking up later in the day with a stamina penalty. It was raining the next day, so I decided to purchase and plant some more cabbages. I placed down this stone bench, sold some more goods, handed in a quest to Hayden, which I got some milk for, and then cleared some more of the farm. I managed to get the town rank up to level 13 and harvested some juicy potatoes the next day. I sold these potatoes, making a pretty little penny, and also completed the quest to fill up the town's emergency reserves. I planted some more potato seeds, and my new perk to have seeds watered upon planting them was really paying off. I gave Hayden some wooden fencing and received some chicken eggs, after which I collected some water chestnuts, which I found out later are actually pretty crucial for animal feed. Adeline gave me some turnip seeds after fulfilling the quest to buff up the town's food reserves, and then headed to the inn to see what everyone was doing that Friday night. The 3 tables did their normal thing, and then before heading home I collected some more cheeky berries. With the remainder of stamina that I had, I managed to plant the remaining seeds that I had, eat some berries, and finish watering the crops before nightfall. I received a letter in the morning telling me about the Saturday market, which is why the bridge needed to be repaired earlier in order to have the market open again, and was asked to introduce myself to each of the vendors. That day I built a ton of wooden fencing to begin pimping out the farm, and then went to the market. Now, because I'm an absolute numpty, I didn't actually talk to the vendors like I needed to. Instead, I just looked through the list of items that I could buy, thinking that this is what I needed to do. Funnily enough, apparently item catalogs are not people after all. I then went and traded in some essence for some mining perks, of which I got the Reclaimer perk, which allowed me to randomly receive furniture drops from chests found in the mine, and the Treasure Hunter perk, which enabled treasure floors to appear in the mines. Going deeper into the mines, I ran into these rock idiots who took 1,000,000 years to kill because, again, as you'll see later, I'm a numpty. I didn't discover until much later how to defeat these enemies, and honestly, it was only by luck too. My inability to resist hoarding got the better of me again, and I ended up not making it home that night after a big day in the mine. Damn it. Oh, so annoying. Thankfully, the next day it was raining, so I didn't need so much stamina for the day because the watering of the crops was taken care of. Celine visited in the morning and asked me to help her collecting Breath of Spring flowers for the Spring Festival, of which there would be prizes for the one who collected the most flowers. Basically, I received these flowers for doing just tasks around the farm or in the mine or whatever, any task really, and so I collected a huge bunch of them. I also placed down a new chest outside, and this began my organization of all the things that I gathered from hoarding. I then joined the innkeepers Josephine and Raina with a cooking lesson, learning how to dice up a mean meal. I also bought my first fruit tree, and decided to plant it on the more clear side of the farm, a lemon tree and a cherry tree. I then placed down a bunch of fences to begin organizing the farm a lot more, and continued clearing the farm for the day. I dropped off a flower to the museum, and then went to the blacksmith's anvil in order to make some copper ingots to upgrade my gear for the mine. I managed to upgrade the town rank up to level 15, and the next morning did all my normal morning routines of watering crops and all that. I then went to the blacksmith anvil and created the copper ingots. Realizing that I needed way more copper to create all the stuff that I needed, I headed back to the mine to try and collect some more. I picked up the combat perk Jump Attack and soon was once again a crazy kangaroo with one too many monster cans on the menu. This perk was honestly great though for fighting the various enemies down in the mine. I collected a ton more copper, gems and various items, eating some food to keep me sustained, and once again ran out of bag space pretty quickly. I was determined to get to bed on time that night though after failing a couple of times already, so I left a little bit earlier this time. That night in a dream, the creepy dragon statue spoke to me again, who gave me a spell, and the ability to use mana the next day. This spell was actually kind of OP, as it only cost 1 mana and restored all health and stamina, which as the stamina bar grows becomes extremely beneficial. That morning, I collected a bunch of crops and sold them to make a tidy profit, did my normal morning routine, and because I'm a goose, I didn't realize that to make a copper sword, I needed to level up my blacksmithing until now. So I created a new pickaxe to assist with quicker mining capacity, so that I could get the skill of blacksmithing up quicker. Going back to the mine, I tried to head deeper down in the mine, and my new pickaxe instantly was assisting with moving through quicker. I found new rock idiots, which took another 1,000,000 years to kill, and I struggled on further. Man, those guys are a little harder to kill. Jumping like a maniac on a pogo stick, I made my way further down the mine, collecting a bunch of copper ore and other items, like this shadow flower. Eventually, though, I ran into this sort of gate that was sealed. Oh no, what have I run into? It is, but what is this? A faint whisper breaks the silence. Hero, the water seal. I took a rubbing of the tablet, the water tablet allegedly, that stood in the middle of the room so that Island may have been able to translate it. I collected a hoard of copper from a golden chest nearby, along with a mine wall crafting recipe, and attempted to dash back home before it was too late. Again though, I was too late, and so... No, I was literally right there. Oh, that's so annoying. I began to realize that my in-game character was actually a reflection of my own life and inability to get to bed on time. Hit that subscribe button if you're part of the Nocturnal crew. In the mines, I managed to accumulate quite a lot of things for my hoarding collection, as you can see here. That morning, Celine collected the flowers that I'd been collecting for the Spring Carnival competition, of which I managed to win second place, being beaten by only Celine.
Second place?
Busta. Who the heck beat me? Rigged, if you ask me, and kind of dodgy that Celine, the collector of the flowers, is the one who won the competition. Celine, an absolute psychopath. Anyway, that day I finally managed to create my new copper sword, along with a new watering can. I continued to donate bugs and various items to the museum, and put down my hard-earned Spring Carnival competition rewards, feeling a little bit salty that Celine had won. I also planted some strawberries, which apparently once you plant them, they will repeatedly give you crops every 5 days until the next season. I also used the new watering can, which was a huge time saver. Taking a swing at the big rocks on my farm, I now learned that I could clear them off the property. That day I received a hefty 2.5 Gs for my hard work on the farm, and had officially stepped out of crippling poverty. I also leveled up the town rank to level 16. Because I was now convinced that farming was the best way to make money, I decided to buy a ton of cabbage seeds, which I should have been able to harvest before the season ended. I also was requested to meet Adeline at her office in the manor in order to begin the mill restoration program. I agreed to assist with this and then talked to Ireland about the water tablet that I'd found in the mine. He didn't know how to read the script because it was written in witch speak. He did know someone in town, however, who could read the language. Our bathhouse friend, Juniper. After a visit to Juniper, we discovered that the tablet was a list of items that the gate required to be opened. The mill restoration was going to take a minute with a lot of goods being required, including 1,000 gold, so I decided to put that on the back burner a little bit. Because it was getting late though, I decided to clear some more land back at the farm. This would also assist with me acquiring the stone and the timber that I needed for the mill restoration. That night, I managed to get my hands on 3,000 big ones, which was going to be immensely helpful for many things. I also decided to try fishing this day, so I went and purchased a basic rod. I managed to catch a tuna and failed at catching anything else because, well, I'm just that dang good. Ooh, too quick. I went back up to the mill and donated the stone and wood that I needed for that project, and then went to the inn and finally began my cooking skills in the inn's kitchen, and bought myself a kitchen and crafting table. Also realizing that it was the carpenter shop that I could purchase coops and barns for animals from. Oh, okay. Leveled the town rank up to level 17, and it was the Saturday market the next day, so I finally introduced myself to more than just the catalogues of items. After the brief introductions, I went back down into the depths and collected some copper. I did some fishing in the mine, catching myself a cave eel while my copper sword went to work, and it was at this point that I figured out what I needed to open the water gate to, of which some of these items I had seen before and sold or ate them like a true legend. I created some more copper ingots on the way home, and rushed to the mill to finish the mill quest, grabbing my cash reward along the way. Speaking quickly to Adeline, we fixed the mill at night with some moonlight construction, always the safest way to construct any building if you ask me, and had the mill operational again. This mill allowed me to create animal food as well as things like flour for cooking. I found all the items needed to open the water gate in order to head deeper into the mine. Oh, I have a mushroom. Beautiful. And it was then that I met the dragon priestess, and also extended my health with a heart container. I continued to struggle with these idiots, but was now up to obtaining iron ore for upgrades. I also found coral at this level of the mine, which I guess has to do with the water gate that I opened earlier. I found this trapdoor and had no idea what it was at first, but eventually realized that I needed to turn a lever to open it and proceed further down into the mine.
Ooh.
Aha, that's the lever that I need to get. I almost had my first death after being destroyed by a slithering spike. Oh, man, they wreck. But I managed to make it 5 more levels down and gain entry from this point for the next time. I made some iron ingots on the way home, but still didn't quite have enough to make any new tools. When I travelled home, the dragon statue gave me a new spell, Summon Rain, which turned out to be a super useful spell toward the end of the game. I also upgraded my farming skills by getting the well-watered perk, which made it so that some of my crops would stay watered the following day, along with the heavy-duty perk, which sometimes granted a piece of stone or wood when tilling. I also got some cooking perks, which honestly were mostly pretty useless, especially when a future farming perk became available and when my stamina was upgraded too. I continued to press further down the mine because I was determined to go as deep as I could. I caught a waterfly along the way, collected more iron ore along with various cave goodies, and finally discovered that the little X's on the ground were actually locations that I could mine ore from. I honestly wish I had known this earlier because I could have had so much more ore by now, but hey, that's how it is. I then found an artifact along the way, a chest with some ore, and the monsters were now actually giving some pretty decent cash upon killing them too. I made it to the next checkpoint in the mine 5 levels down, and decided to try and go a little deeper to collect some more iron ore for crafting. That evening I put my new light down and turned it on. I thought that it looked pretty neat at the entrance of my farm. I managed to rank up the town to level 19, and was getting close to the next tier. The next day I decided to spend some essence points on wood crafting and got the masonry perk, which basically allowed me to receive an extra piece of stone sometimes upon breaking a rock, and the lumberjack perk, which did the same thing but just with breaking a branch and receiving wood. These perks actually proved pretty helpful in the end, especially the wood perk, as I was constantly running out of wood for town repairs. I also got the time-sensitive blacksmithing perk, which reduced the time taken to make things by 10 minutes. This also was a great perk because eventually it allowed me to make ingots with no time cost whatsoever. That day I managed to make an iron ore axe with all of the iron that I'd collected, and a new sword as well. It was around this level in the mine that I noticed that things were starting to hit pretty hard though, so I was hoping to make some iron armor soon enough for more defense. I eventually found a golden chest which contained a mana potion and a chest, which I was actually in need of with powerful hoarding capabilities like mine. I managed to make an iron pick, but also forgot to pick it up because, well, I'm a goose, and my bag was full once again. Now that I had the iron axe though, I could cut down the large tree trunks and collect hardwood. I then picked up my pick the next day, made an iron watering can which saved me a ton of time watering in the mornings, and headed back to the mine to push deeper. With my new iron pickaxe, I was now making short work of the rocks that I was breaking and was collecting a lot of iron ore. And eventually I made my way to the earth tablet where I took a rubbing for translation again. I also received a lot of iron ore from a nearby chest. Give me some good stuff. Ooh yeah, I love it, I love it. That day I also finally made some iron armor as I was constantly getting absolutely wrecked by the monsters in the mine, and this armor actually helped a lot. I quickly ducked into the manor to meet with Adeline and Aylin for another repair mission. They wanted to beautify the town and fix various potholes and whatnot. The entire town ended up pitching in and it was done in no time. Giga Chad Errol stopped by and demonstrated his Giga Chadness by breaking a large stone with one hit to impress all the ladies. Whoa, big man on campus. I also gained access to the lemon tree in the summit to the north of the town. I collected some lemons and found a fountain that restored stamina and periodically refilled too. The next day I went to Juniper and handed in the tablet rubbing for her to translate, which she had some trouble with. Because of this, we had to visit someone who was knowledgeable of plants, so we spoke to Celine. I now had a new list of items, of which I think I had 2 out of the 4 in my travels: a coral mantis, a sapphire, which I already have, and an archerfish and a jade dulce. I took a small break from the mine that day and decided to continue clearing the farm for more space. I also went to Hayden's to talk about animals, and was joined by a chicken for a discussion. I then went back and began making space for a barn and a coop. I went and bought a red barn and a red coop, and I placed them on the farm. I needed some wood and stone to actually get them functioning, but only had enough for one, so I chose the barn to begin with. And that night, I managed to get the town level to a new tier completely, copper tier, and received another stamina increase pot. That day I cleared some more room on the farm for animals, but luckily decided not to clear grass, as this became a huge resource for my animals. I also used my stamina restoration spell, and was able to really begin chewing through all the trees and the rocks for clearing. I also managed to gather enough wood to build the coop. I of course gave it a very original name, same with the barn. Let's just go with coop barn. Oh, I got some fruit. I also finally gathered some fruit from my fruit trees that I had planted eons ago. I got a few more useless farming perks, and also some blacksmithing perks that helped me to make things quicker and gather some more resources. I picked my first cow, which I gave a very original name, and was once again completely broke. Now, clicking on the bell of the barn allowed for the animals to be let out to eat, which meant that I didn't need to make animal feed, which was actually difficult to make at this time. I also had to move them in at the end of the day and keep them inside on days of bad weather, which is what I reserved the animal feed for in the end. The next morning, I collected a ton of cabbages, which were going to give me a solid profit in the end. Ooh, it's payday, baby. It is payday. I also managed to clear most of the farm for use. I was offered to upgrade the general store or the farm when I visited the general store, and chose to upgrade the general store for some more goods and hopefully some more bag space too. The upgrade was going to cost a fair amount of wood, stone, iron and copper, so I had to get to work gathering these things, and I purchased a couple of mining perks, which once again gave me extra drops and allowed for chests to appear more frequently, something that I was hoping was going to make this a bit easier. I made a copper shovel on the way home and handed it in for 1,000 big ones, and managed to almost provide all that was needed for the store upgrade, only being a few ingots short. And that officially marked the end of spring, with summer now arriving. Oh, it's summer. Okay. I can do some more gardening now, I guess. I wonder if my other plants will survive. At the end of the season, all of the plants that I had planted for spring, unfortunately they were dead. So I cleared them out and headed to the store to buy some more summer crops. I also bought a pear and a peach tree to plant early in the season this time, in hopes of acquiring some more seasonal fruit. I planted everything, called Moo out of his home, and headed back to the mine to gather more things. Oh, another gold chest. Each season there's a bunch of new items to forage for as well, so I also collected things where I could conveniently. The game continued to enable me in regard to my hoarding superpower, providing me with another chest to fill, and then I took another 1,000,000 years to kill one of these idiots. With all of the items needed for the general store upgrade now obtained, all I needed now was some cold hard cash. I then tried my hand at fishing, caught an 8-tentacled friend, foraged on the way home, and leveled the town rank to level 23. Moo finally provided some fresh milk, and I planted more seeds before going fishing again. I caught a bunch of different fish, then went to the mill to make some feed for Moo, which I now realized took a whole lot of time to make. I finally fed Moo, who I am sure was starving by this point, and planted some fresh grass for her outside of her barn to eat the next day. I caught the archer fish that I needed for the next mine gate. Is that it? I think that's it. Yes, that's what we needed. And picked up the movement speed mining perk, which turned out to be pretty good. It basically allowed you to speedrun levels by making you sprint like Usain Bolt upon entering a level for about a total of 10 seconds. I made some more iron armor, and then picked up some more mining perks the next day that gave me stamina orbs for breaking rocks and more resources. I had now collected all of the items needed to get through the earth gate for the mine, and made my way into the next section. Here we go. What's this priestess going to say this time? Hero, thank you for breaking the seal. She's well done. She seems to be able to talk more each time I break one of the seals. I received more health for this, and was now introduced to silver ore, which was the highest that I could get at this point, because the game is in early access. I killed another one of those idiots after 1,000,000 years, and found this statue which gives you health, stamina, or essence orbs, depending on what you can trade in for it. I then made my way down the next 5 levels, and destroyed a bunch of monsters to let out my frustration against the stupid rock guys that take so long to kill. When I got back to the farm, the dragon statue gave me a new spell called Growth, which allowed me to grow my plants, including fruit trees, more quickly. This spell, though, it cost a lot of mana, so I didn't end up using it a whole lot. Maybe once, I think. But I also received another mana node, which was huge because I now had 3 mana nodes, and my restoration spell, along with my rain spell, they only costed 1 mana node to use. The next morning though was finally payday as I harvested a bunch of corn and tomatoes for a tidy profit. Again, I headed into the mine to go deeper and to collect some more silver ore, as I really wanted to upgrade all of my gear at this stage. And it was only now, feeling like an absolute numpty, that I figured out the stupid rock guys, how to defeat them. I basically had to hit the rocks they spat out back at them. Oh! Nevertheless, I was absolutely stoked to finally figure this out, as the hunter became the hunted. I also finally discovered that the little whirlpools that I had been seeing everywhere, that you could traverse through them to other whirlpools in the area. Collecting more silver ore, I made my way down the next 5 levels and then purchased more perks, and this time in the combat tree. I got a perk that made monsters occasionally drop twice as many items, and an interesting perk that gave cooking dishes from treasure chests. Honestly though, I really don't recall getting too many of these. That evening I made a silver pickaxe and reached blacksmithing level 30. I also visited the ever-lovely March and turned in a quest, which gave me a reward that actually fulfilled the demands of the next quest that he required in a 2-for-1 deal. Very nice indeed. Oh, what a silly Billy. That night I received 5,000 big ones and a new town rank level, which gave me enough money to finally upgrade the general store. That day, I chose to buy a bunch of watermelon seeds as it became clear that farming was the best way to make money in this game. After planting them and watering them in, I began making a third plot for planting. I tilled the plot in preparation, put Moo in his home, and built a whole bunch of wooden fencing to begin boxing in sections for planting. The next morning, I received a shiny bead, which I had no idea what to do with at the time. I picked up the blacksmithing perk Hasty Blacksmithing, which enabled armor to occasionally be infused with a 4% speed boost. I went foraging this day, did some more fishing, built a cool wheelbarrow, and then I called it a day. Alright. The next day I decided to go on a fishing binge to try and catch some of the fish that I needed for the museum, which I had kept providing more items for all this time, and managed to catch a treasure chest which rewarded me handsomely. I caught Steve Irwin's arch nemesis, and finally discovered that I could swim in water by jumping into the water. Better late than never, right guys? Anyway, the next day I picked up some more water chestnuts, and decided to make a conscious effort to do this more often in preparation for more animals that I was hoping to buy soon. I was also commissioned with a task from Adeline and Terithia to fix a bridge that gave access to an island near Terithia's house. Like pretty much every other upgrade, I had everything but the wood that I needed for it. And it was only now that I finally realized that I could actually cut down trees outside of my farm, and that they would restore the next day, which was absolutely huge because I needed so much timber. I bought 2 more cows that I gave more creative names, and like the goose that I am, I finally discovered that there was another bag upgrade in the general store, which was the reason that I upgraded this whole thing in the first place. The silver sword that I made was making light work of the rock idiots now, and I was able to chew through the mine levels pretty quickly. I decided to do some more fishing in the mine as I wanted to continue adding to the museum. I collected a bunch more silver, and then made 5 more levels down. I was starting to get close to fulfilling some of the museum donation lines, and was eager to see what sort of rewards I would receive for doing this. As you can see here, my hoarding superpower was paying off handsomely, although I was running out of space pretty quickly. I managed to level my farming to level 30 and reached some pretty juicy perks that I was keen to obtain. The first perk that I purchased was the prize-winning perk, which basically gave me gold for harvesting crops. Very nice. I also reached blacksmithing level 30 and picked up the silver expert perk, which used 1 less silver ingot per job. Back down the mine I went, where I continued to own those idiots, and I finally made it to the lowest level of the mine that I could play to in this early access, the fire gate. I decided at this point that I was now going to focus more on farming and also getting the museum stocked as much as I could. So I made a silver axe for obtaining more wood, and silver fishing rod to catch more fish for the museum. By the way, too, I continued to visit the inn on the Friday nights where the townsfolk continued to explore beverage taste, card games, and D&D nights. Nothing much more really took place here except that the kids decided to try and put together a heist to steal some of the townsfolk's goods and wares or something. Their genius plan involved feeding potato to one of the adults in order to make them fall asleep before breaking into his home to nick a few things. A genius plan if I'd ever seen one. Well, my pear and peach trees were now producing, and I decided to buy some chooks for the farm too. Again, I gave some very original names and had them settled in no time. I also only now discovered that these odd watery thingies were actually locations that I could dive and retrieve things from. Up until this point, I had also accidentally made chook feed instead of large animal feed for my cows, which meant that I needed to desperately make more. So, off to the mill I went. I managed to pick up a chicken at some point, and because this day had been such a day of discovery, I also learned that I could throw things into the shipping container.
You could throw things in the boxes?
The next day it was raining, and I collected some tomatoes along with some sugarcane. My watermelons were beginning to look pretty juicy, and I was really looking forward to selling them for a nice profit. That day I decided to clear some more area of the farm to expand my farming operation and gather some more food. I also went around town recklessly destroying every tree that I could lay my eye on because, well, screw the environment. I had now gathered what I needed to fix the bridge at the beach, so I headed down that way. On the other side were a bunch of forageables, a stamina fountain, and a new location to fish. I planted some more watermelon seeds in the middle of a thunderstorm, always the best time to plant, and then continued my assault against nature. And finally, I quickly made a new plot of land for planting in before heading to bed. The next day was another day for harvesting with a bunch of tomatoes and corn coming in. I was also receiving extra cash now with the harvesting perk that I picked up, which was really starting to help me with moving out of egregious poverty. My cows were now all grown up and providing me with a constant source of milk. I picked up the next farming perk, Superb Sower, which allowed me to sow seeds across a wide area all at once, and the Living Off the Land perk. Now, this perk was completely overpowered, primarily because of how often it actually procced. With this perk, when harvesting any crop, there was a chance for a cooked meal to be dropped. And some of these cooked meals were not just your average Big Mac burger, let me tell you. These bad boys were a 5-star gourmet meal arriving from Gordon Ramsay himself, and they were basically like having an endless supply of stamina. Because I wanted to finish upgrading my gear too, I decided to head down into the mine to get some more silver. That day I managed to make 5 silver ingots, which was the most that I had done in a day yet. I made a cheeky $4,000 that evening, and the next morning I woke up to the epic watermelon harvest. I also had enough essence to finish off all the farming perks, so I grabbed the last perk, which enabled slow-growing crops to reach their maturity a day early. I collected some chicken eggs for the first time from Chick, Ken, and Chook, along with some fruit, and Hayden wanted to meet for the purpose of increasing town supplies. So I decided to talk to him first because, well, if I needed to sell more crops, this was the perfect time. And basically, there was a request put forward for some more town supplies, and I needed to donate eggs and cheese. I harvested the watermelon patch and threw them into the shipping container for the next day's payday. I went to the blacksmith, made a silver ring for my armored defense, which I discovered later actually made a huge difference in this game. Armor is definitely worth obtaining. I then made some cheese at the mill and finally bought the final bag upgrade, which brought me to level 9000 in hoarding jutsu.
Ooh, very nice. Oh, yes.
That night I made $6,000 in profit and managed to get to level 29 in town rank. It was around this time that I realized that selling crops occasionally resulted in the townsfolk sending recipes that sort of incorporated what you were selling. I decided to fill my barns and name the new cow that I purchased Moo Moo, and the chicken that I got Chicky, sticking with the theme of original names. I continued to catch bugs for the museum where convenient, although this little guy proved challenging to catch. That day I managed to make 9 silver ingots because I found this cool treasure room loaded with silver ore. The next morning I picked up a few chooks to show some love to them, pet a few cows, and also used this training dummy as a scarecrow because I thought it looked cool. I also named him Harold. I then maxed out my blacksmithing perks and some ranching perks, one of which gave me more of those weird shiny beads that they dropped from time to time. Now, because I was basically becoming a mole rat at this stage, I decided to head back to the mine to collect some more preciouses in the spirit of Gollum. I found another chest level with a whole lot of silver ore and found a new artifact for the museum. I constructed the silver hoe and shovel because I was intending on expanding the farm to grow more crops at some point, along with some silver armored boots. The next morning, I collected some tommies and a few sugar canes, and after struggling to drop a chook,
Drop the chicken, bruh. Why won't you drop him?
had enough milk and eggs to fulfill the food reserves quest. I also received a request to make a silver sword for Adeline for a beefy 2,000 gold reward. That afternoon, I continued my battle against nature, clearing more land for more planting plots. That night, I also managed to get the town rank up to ruby rank and earned another stamina pot increase. The next day, I made the final piece of cheese that I needed, some more animal feed, and handed them in at the inn. I turned in a quest for a silver ingot for $500, and then joined in to taste some of the reserves that I had made for the town to finish the reserves quest. I then went fishing, and I caught this big fella. The next day I enjoyed harvesting some crops, and can I just say that the feeling for finally getting to harvest in this game, knowing that some serious cash is coming the next day, honestly is a really great feeling. I decided to head down to the mine to double check that I couldn't go any deeper, which I couldn't, and so decided to take out my frustration and anger on some weaker beings. I made some more silver and iron ingots, and made a wet walk home that evening. The next morning I had another large harvest to collect and was finally really starting to make some cash. I then went to Hayden's farm because Adeline wanted to upgrade Hayden's farm. Henrietta the chicken was informing both about various deep governmental topics, and soon I was roped into helping Hayden with his upgrade. Henrietta agreed to the upgrade, and so I was tasked with obtaining a whopping 400 wood, 500 stone, 8 iron ingots, and 4,000 gold. As mentioned earlier, because I was now known in the town as a mining mole rat, I had accumulated enough stone for this already, but once again I needed a whole lot more wood for the upgrade, and so the battle against nature raged on. That night I made 9,000 big ones and leveled up the town rank. I once again spent most of the day in my second home, made some more silver armor, and stopped into Hayden's farm on the way home. I should mention here too that along the way I had continued to fulfill town quests where I could to gain rep, gold, and items for my trouble. I managed to get all the materials for Hayden's farm upgrade pretty quickly actually, and so the town came together to help out with the upgrade. This gave me access to horses, ducks, rabbits, and sheep. I decided that evening that I was going to clear a spot for a new barn, a bigger one hopefully, so that I could get some more of those animals. I wanted it in a location with some grass still around because this had proven very convenient with the other animals rather than feeding them all the time. I ranked up the town again and was now getting close to the next season. I finally managed to donate a full set of items to the museum and was rewarded with a nice cosmetic and a chest with some goodies. I then went and did some more fishing for the day to try and catch the elusive museum fish. I prepared another garden bed for the next season, and with my silver hoe I got half done super quick. I made some more fencing for that rustic vibe that I was now clearly establishing. An old mate at the carpenter spot was now offering medium barns where I could keep 8 animals instead of just 4. Because I was rolling in the dough now, I decided to go and grab a medium barn and a coop. I placed these in the section that I prepared earlier and cleared the remaining few things around them in preparation for some new animals. I also managed to gather enough wood to finish the new housing off, and bought 2 horses and 2 sheep. Horsey, Sheepy, Shipe, and Horace were their names. I decided to get a female horse along with the stallion too, to see if I could breed them at some stage, believing that Horsey and Horace, that they would provide me with a farlap in no time. Because I had all of the extra animals now, I decided to make some more animal feed at the mill and really pay more attention to keeping those shelves stocked. I also discovered this section of the town where grape trees were growing. I didn't know grapes grew on trees, I thought they grew on vines. But all this time, and I still hadn't discovered this little nook yet. Nature refused to give in to the cold steel of my silver axe, and so it again suffered my wrath. I also found this dragon well where you could put money down it and it would spit things out like recipes. As you can see too, Busta is my name and hoarding, well, it's my game. I continued to clear more land for further future growing beds and took the town rank to level 33. That morning I went around for petting duties with all the animals, stocked up the troughs, and started preparing new garden beds for some serious gardening in autumn. But because I'm a numpty as well, I didn't align the beds perfectly with the existing ones, so I had to sort of go back and fix a few things. I then found another new area where I believe a fruit tree may have existed, looking at its shape. It just wasn't in season for harvesting, which was a bit of a bummer. I finally managed to pick up a little hay, which for some reason was difficult to gather in the summer, and finished building the fences that I needed to finish the farm's fencing job. And that night, autumn or fall arrived. Because my crops were dead, I needed to clear out the beds. I quickly did this after learning a couple of new cooking recipes, and so began the great fall planting bonanza. I was tempted to sell some of the eggs that I had collected, which had accumulated quite a bit by now, but I'm really glad that I didn't, and you'll see why later. I immediately headed to the store and began my seed shopping spree. I decided on getting an orange tree and a bunch of onions, the most underrated vegetable in the culinary world in my opinion. The war against nature raged on that day too, and I began foraging some new forageables around town. I was also thankful to see that water chestnuts continued through at least 3 seasons, because this meant that I had a final season to collect animal feed for the winter. That evening, I went fishing and caught this big boy, and this one too. The next day I found some garlic, another culinary wonder, and a crayfish in one of the nearby rivers. Rain, hail, or shine, I could not allow nature to once again gain the upper hand, so I struck hard where I could. I found something called moonfruit and was able to donate a large amount of things to the museum that day. I then went to talk to Adeline once again about another town upgrade, the inn this time. After gathering another free drink from these suckers, we agreed to work on the inn as the next upgrade. I then gave a garlic to Raina and received a garlic bread recipe, the 8th wonder of the world. I then went on to look at the new materials that I would need for the upgrade at the box outside, and this was going to be a hefty one. I donated what I could, and decided to chip away at this slowly. I visited the mill again, and made some more animal feed in preparation for winter, because winter is coming. I then collected what I could from my glorious hoard at home to see what I could hand in at the inn, and while I was short of a few things, I was surprised that I made a lot of progress quickly. My glorious hoarding superpower was definitely paying off. I then went into the mine to blow some steam off and beat up a few weaker creatures, and collected a bunch of silver ore. I found this statue, which I turned in some stone for some stamina, and bashed the heck out of this mushroom freak. I also needed to collect peat from the mine for the upgrade, so I kept an eye out for more and managed to get one away from what I needed for the inn's upgrade. That day I went foraging in the afternoon and picked up a bunch of stuff for my collection. I also discovered that this tree that I had run past a million times was actually an apple tree, which was quite nice because it meant that I could begin harvesting fruit a little bit earlier. The next day, I collected a little bit more wood that I needed and then headed back into the mine to find the final piece of peat that I needed. After much rock splitting, I did manage to retrieve the peat that I needed too. Oh yes, I got one. Nice, okay. I decided to make some silver tools to sell, as they would give me a tidy little profit that I could use to expand the farm. I sold them, along with a bunch of other things, and finally received some wool and horsehair from my newer animals. About time. That night, I leveled up the town rank again, and the next morning I collected a bunch of onions. My mole rat instincts drew me back to the mine for another digging session, and I found a really nice chesticle. That was full of heaps of good stuff. That day I obtained my biggest harvest of silver yet, and passed out literally next to my bed. No, I was literally right there, dang it. The next day, I collected this book that I received for ranking the town up, and went to go and make some more silver tools to sell. I also had enough cash to finish upgrading the inn, so I went to talk to Adeline. But the entire town pitched in for this one, and the boys got to work with the others decorating the inside. This seemed to give me some more options for recipes and cooking, but that was really about it, which was pretty disappointing. That and a bigger bowl of soup that I could get for free each day, which was nice, I admit. The book that I got for the town rank upgrade turned out to be for the sight impaired and was absolutely massive. And for some reason the game wasn't letting me cast seeds en masse, so I had to do it the old-fashioned way that day. I planted a bunch of sweet potato alongside of my onions. I then turned in a bug to luck and got a greasy cheese sandwich that he had kept in his pocket for weeks. Extra flavor on that one, I guess. And the next morning I managed to get 5,000 big ones and level the town rank to level 35. I insulted the local wildlife that day. Quick. That bird was about to land on it. Get wrecked. And almost broke my wrist buying a ton of broccoli seeds along with an apple tree. I planted out the broccoli seeds and used some food to restore stamina before finishing the job. I decided to keep the fruit trees along the edges of the farm and planted my apple tree nearby the other fruit trees, and then I got to watering. I went and collected some water chestnuts and some more hay and seed for the animal feed, and then managed to complete another museum group and receive a reward. I received some new duds, which I really liked, and so in my new getup, I headed home. Each morning now turned out to be a huge investment of stamina with how much watering I was doing, but I stayed the course knowing that my hard work would reward me soon enough. The stamina pots, they came in handy here, and I sold a few onions that day. It was only now that I learned too that watering before letting my animals out was a bad idea because that meant that the animals would eat the feed that I had in the trough for the day. I continued buying and planting more broccoli seeds and then finally realized that I could actually swim at the beach, something I only discovered now because, well, I'm a true gamer. The next morning I decided to try my summon rain spell, which worked an absolute treat. I made as much animal feed as I could, now determined to get more than ever after my animals ate so much, and purchased a bunch of pumpkin seeds to plant. My little farm workspace was coming along nicely with some of the cosmetics that I'd received, and the next day it was raining, which meant that I didn't have to water the plants that day, a nice break from the morning routine. And that morning, out under the lightning, I collected a bunch of sweet potato. I managed to level up my ranching skill to level 30, which meant some more perks. I picked up a perk that allowed me to feed my animals cooked dishes, a welcome sight indeed, and 2 more perks, one which made it so that my animals started at a greater maturity level when first purchased, and another that enabled my ducks and horses to drop extra produce. My chesticles at home were now exploding at the seams from all of my hoarding, so I made a new stone chest to keep outside and for more space. I did a spot of fishing that evening and caught this little guy. Oh man, you just get so much stuff. Indeed, the goods were rolling in now. I spent an eon watering all of my crops that morning, wondering why I didn't have a sprinkler system yet, and bought some more pumpkin seeds to increase my pain. I caught another 2 Bruceys, and the next day finally picked up some oranges from the tree. I also decided that all of that fish that I had collected needed to be taken to the museum to see if any could be donated. So I headed to the museum with the irresistible fragrance of month-old fish. The museum took a bunch of these, thankfully, and so I sold all the leftovers for some more cash and recipes. I also discovered that Hayden actually sold hay at his farm. Hayden, I guess? So I bought a bunch, relieved that I could now make some more animal food. I made a bunch of high-quality animal food at the mill, which lasts a lot longer, and sold a bunch of random stuff that day, almost filling the shipping container in fact. I leveled up the town rank to level 37, and the next day I had enough broccoli to feed a small army. I collected it all and sold those bad boys for a hefty profit. I made some orange juice, a favorite in real life, and began storing my meals and food in an extra chest. I also discovered now that some food, when created, actually had extra buffs. Oh, they just don't stack? Oh, wait, why is this... Oh, this one's like special. For some reason we got a special one or something. How weird. To get some new recipes, I decided to sell one of all the things that I had collected. I bought some more pumpkin seeds, and was all in on the farming venture now, collected more apples and forageables, and that night I made a huge 11,000 buckaroos and a massive 158 rank points, leveling up to level 38. The next day I made 10 broccoli meals, which were super easy to make with only the single head of brock to make it. It was only now that I figured out that those shiny beads that I received from my animals could actually be traded in at the chicken statue for random rewards. One of which was actually some animal feed, something that I was struggling to keep up with now, so that was really nice. I picked up this cool dragon priestess fountain with the recipe to make more. I then developed instant carpal tunnel syndrome when I bought 200 sweet potatoes. And they gotta fix this. I need to be able to press in 10s, bruh. put down my priestess statue next to the dragon statue already on my farm, and I got to planting. I finished planting and watering by nightfall. The next day I collected a bunch of silver and handed in a quest to Juniper, and got a tidy little profit of 300 gold.
Give me the money.
I noticed that one of the silver picks that I had made had an enchantment,
Ooh, that's good. I'll trade that actually.
which gave me stamina orbs on occasion when breaking rocks. A very welcome sight indeed. I sold the other pickaxe and continued with my hoarding. The next day I handed in a few quests, received some rewards, and spent most of the hours that day making animal food at the mill. I foraged once again in the evening, and got this nifty little dragon statue for a quest that I had completed. The following day it was raining, which was a very welcome sight, and harvested a bunch of juicy looking pumpkins. The day before I had actually received a hard-boiled egg recipe for selling a few eggs, and this recipe turned out to be pretty overpowered because it allowed me to make a ton of hard-boiled eggs, which leveled up my cooking ability tremendously. And with a huge amount of eggs coming in now, this became the best way for me to level my cooking skill. The crazy thing about this too is that I actually had a cooking perk that allowed for me to receive some ingredients back after cooking, and so I managed to collect a bunch of eggs back after cooking them too.
Oh man, it's the gift that just keeps on giving, that thing.
I continued my fishing attempts and found this school of fish, which was a super convenient way to fish. I caught this rubber fish for the museum, and because I'm an absolute numpty, I finally discovered that I could dig these little mounds that had been staring at me in the face the entire game. And so I began digging everywhere that I could, like a rat mole, finding a bunch of artifacts and items. I donated a bunch of new stuff to the museum, and made 11,000 big ones that day because the pumpkins were amazingly profitable. I was now at Iron rank level 41 for the town rank, and had received another stamina increase pot. I then collected an exorbitant amount of sweet potato, and handed in some more museum items, completing another stack and receiving another reward and cosmetic. I was disappointed that the cosmetic was not actually a fedora, as I thought it was at first. I've heard that they're quite popular with the ladies after all. I then picked up a level 2 cooking station along with a set of rustic crafting options.
Ooh, okay. Oh, I like this. I like this style, actually.
The war against nature continued to rage on in the background of all of this, mind you, and I was sure that I was beginning to get the upper hand. After wrecking nature in the face again, I managed to save up enough wood to upgrade my home. I then headed home and caught this handsome fella along the way.
Lamprey, that is an ugly looking fish, dude.
When I did get home, my house had already doubled or maybe even tripled in internal size, which I was immediately excited to fill with more chests for hoarding. That night I made 10 Gs and I was now raking in the dough. I also ranked the town up to level 42, and the next morning I noticed my silver sword had actually gone missing.
What?
I got this cool outfit and decided to walk around looking like a wizard because I had evolved from a mole rat. I made a new silver sword quickly, confused as to what happened to the old one, and then I went fishing. I gave a mullet to Maple while she was in bed.
Have a mullet for your bedtime story.
Which she gave me a bar of chocky for, and then I headed back to the farm. That night I realized that I had forgotten to water all of my plants, so I used my spell Summon Rain to quickly water everything, and I popped myself into bed. I then discovered that to make the highest quality food, I needed to get seaweed from diving down in the ocean to retrieve it. I leveled up the town rank to level 43, and harvested an enormous amount of pumpies. That day, I decided I wanted some more animals, so I bought some aphrodisiac cookies and gave them to my animals, of which I accidentally gave 2 biscuits to 2 female sheep. You could imagine my shock in our culturally sensitive times when these 2 did not produce offspring. But a discussion of the birds and the bees would need to wait, because those pumpies, they had brought in a nice haul of 11,000 gold. The next day I collected some more fruit, and realized that my sword had probably disappeared because, well, I'm an idiot who clicks way too fast at times, probably. I aggressively showed some chicken some love.
Can you... Oh, this damn chicken.
I also began feeding eggs to cows, a wholly nutritious meal for these creatures.
Hang on, let me try this. You can feed eggs to the cows. You know what? Here, have an egg each. Gimme beads, baby.
But I also realized that feeding them this food actually gave me more of those shiny beads that I could trade in. And so, as you can probably guess, this became a new component of the daily routine. Having all of these beads really paid off too, because you receive a fair bit of animal feed fairly often. At least that's what happened for me. I then went to the blacksmith determined to make an enchanted sword, but no luck this time. I went fishing again that day and sold a bunch of stuff. I also then took a look at the items that I needed to complete the museum, thinking that I must be getting close now. I was not getting close now. Because I'm a sadistic freak as well, I began feeding my animals their own production. I donated this ancient artifact to the museum that I had found while on my digging binge, and because I'm a big brain 5-head, I decided to move my bed close to the door of my house, so hopefully I would never pass out next to it again. Because I was getting close to the next season, I decided to put my green thumb to rest for a bit, grab these earrings, which I mistakenly believed to be chicken eggs with little feet. Oh, it's earrings. I thought it was like an egg with chicken feet or something. A big brain indeed. And then decided to drop into my second home and beat up some weaker creatures to level up my combat skill. I found this artifact, and through my sheer savagery, I managed to kill enough monsters to get combat level 30. I traded some essence in to get an infused weapon perk, a wonderful perk that made it so that I could double my chances of critically striking those rock idiots that used to take me like 1,000,000 years to kill, a speed boost perk for after you defeat a monster, and a perk to make it a little easier to kill enchanters, a monster that I don't think I came across yet, but I had so much essence that I just bought it anyway. I handed in 2 mysterious artifacts that I had found to the museum, and dashed home to get home before I passed out.
There's my sword. I found the missing sword. It was there the whole time.
I then figured out that by giving animals better food, you actually received more beads, helpful for trade-in for the animal food at the chicken statue. Today, luck was on my side too, because I actually crafted an infused sword. Finally got one. Oh, it's purple too. Very cool. Okay, so we can sell those. So I instantly went to the mine and beat up some more lesser creatures and was pleased with not only the sword, but also the speed boost perk that I got too. The crits were nice as well on those rock idiots, let me tell you. I leveled up the town rank to level 45. The next day I made some more garden beds for a huge winter harvest that I was intending in investing in with the 50k that I had collected now. I fenced this off and I bought a load of stamina pots for this too. I bought a male sheep this time for breeding, and finished prepping the garden beds for the winter. I also crafted some scarecrows because I had a bunch of hay now after learning about where to buy it. I placed them in the fields, and they looked pretty spiffy if you ask me. I continued to find more artifacts on my digging escapade, and then went fishing and foraging one final time for the season. And then it was winter.
It's winter time, baby. Here we go.
Alpacas and capybaras became available at this stage in the game, but because I had huge farming plans, I decided to focus on this for the final days of the 100 days that I was playing for. I wanted to create an omega harvest. Also, I don't think it actually rains in winter, and so the animals can be let out pretty much every day. At least, I didn't think I got any rain in all the days that I played through winter. Anyway, along the way to the general store, I collected a few new forageables, bought a pomegranate tree, and then almost broke my soul with how many times I needed to click to purchase the amount of seeds that I wanted.
Let's get 300 of those.
In the end, I bought a juicy 300 daikon radishes, 50 snow peas, and 50 cauliflower seeds. Planting this amount of seeds felt good, especially with the way the beds were now set up for easier seed casting. So, with a few stamina pots down, a whole lot of seed casting, I managed to get it all done before nightfall. I decided to go foraging for some of the new items available too. I collected some new berries, flowers, and noticed the water chestnuts were now gone for the season. I handed in a bunch of donations at the museum, and was awarded with a reward after finishing a collection. I did this a second time that day and got some flour, which I made bread with. I bought some more radish seeds on the way home with the remainder of the cash that I had, planted them, and then I used my rain spell to water everything in. I added all of the new additions to the hoarding collection, and the next morning, for some weird reason I never understood,
Oh, they stay watered.
The crops that I had watered the previous day stayed watered the following day. My only guess was that it was technically still snowing, which is the rain feature for the winter season or something. I don't know, but I was just happy to have them watered again. That day I went fishing and caught some new species of fish, and went swimming in the icy cold water to gather some things. I caught this big fella and dug around to try to find some more artifacts. I then picked up some woodcrafting skills, which made it quicker and less costly to make things, and continued my foraging. I donated a bunch of new items to the museum, and then played Tetris with all the items in my chests. Because I was running out of space, yet again, I made a nifty looking purple chesticle. I watered the plants in the morning, which took 1,000 years, and twice as much stamina than normal, dug up 2 shards, which I received a quest for pretty much at the start of the game, and turned that in.
Here's your shards you asked for like 1,000,000 years ago.
The next day, rather than spend the eternity watering, I decided to use my summon rain spell to do this instead, and spent a lazy day just fishing. I found this pomegranate tree with some fruit on it, donated a couple of things to the museum, and made a little more animal feed at the mill. I continued to press ahead with the museum donations, completing another set, and then the next morning I collected a bazillion snow peas. I finally managed to collect 100 shiny beads after feeding the animals some snow peas, drank a mana pot for the first time, and decided to water with my rain spell. I donated the 100 beads and received some golden cookies, butter, and a pudding recipe. I continued trying to get the winter fish and bugs that I needed for the museum, collected a ton of cauliflower, along with a few tag-along snow peas, and then used my summon rain spell again. I bought a ton more daikon radish seeds, and then went to the museum to donate a fish that I knew the museum needed. And it was here that I saw that all I needed to complete a set of winter ocean fish was a common crab. And although catching crabs is easy for many people, for me, catching any proved very challenging. I planted the seeds that I bought at the store, found this artifact, and then went looking to catch some crabs, the ocean kind. That day I caught a lot of fish, but no luck with any crabs. That night I managed to rank up the town level to 47, and then the next morning I went through my morning routine and then off to try and catch crabs again. I used my rain spell too, so that I didn't need to spend all morning watering the crops. After handing in the artifact, I didn't have any luck catching any crabs that day. I handed in this quest to Nora for burdock root, took my free soup for the day because I'm never one to say no to a free meal, and then the next morning was Omega Harvest Day. In my journey to catch the ever-elusive crabs, I visited Raina to give her a gift, but no luck there either. I then noticed one of the chooks yet again in my garden, eating my produce.
Get out of here. Look, you got stuff up here, man.
I harvested all of the radishes, which took me a minute because there were so many, but I was really looking forward to seeing just how much I would make from this. In the end, I collected 349 radishes for sale. That day I made some iron chest armor for a quest, and noticed that I could pinch a couple of crops each season for the museum. I picked up some beets to grow so I could turn one into the museum when fully grown, and planted those bad boys out. And that night, I made almost 70,000 gold.
Holy moly. 68,000. Holy.
And also maxed out the town rank with all the points that I'd received. I was rewarded with my final stamina pot, a couple of things in the mail in the morning, and then I tried again for the crabs. Again, I had no luck, but I did beef up my stamina with the stamina pot that I'd received. Eventually I placed down my giant book's brother, Giant Scroll, and one of my sheep had a baby after I purchased the ram that I needed. I named him Shipe. I finally collected some more pomegranates from my tree and visited Shipe for pets. I then headed to the museum to turn in that beet that I had grown, and I received a decent reward for completing the winter crop collection.
Ooh, this is massive. Wait. That's huge.
Having no luck collecting any crabs again, I was now wondering if maybe I was doing something wrong and had missed something. I turned to Hayden's supplies and bought my animals some new outfits, which I thought they looked very snazzy in, continued fishing, and managed to pick up 2 golden chesticles, which had some nice goodies inside. The chookies were in amongst the crops again the next day, Get out of here. Oh, it's always that white one, man. I completed my silver toolkit by making a silver bug net, and continued my search for crabs. I bought some ducks as a way of coping, which I gave more creative names. I handed in some glowberries to Reese, or Rias, whatever his name is, who gave me some cookies to eat. Spent some money at the Dragonwell casino slot, and before I knew it, 100 days was now up. I would like to finish this video by acknowledging that I didn't catch any crabs in the end, which I guess is probably a blessing in disguise.